Tonight on Currents News, Holy Communion and Sunday Mass, Catholics are able to fully enjoy the fruits of their faith again.
Churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn opened their doors to parishioners for the first weekend masses since the pandemic hit. I'm Emily Drooby and I'll have that story.
Bishop Kevin Sweeney is with us tonight as he begins the first week of his new mission, leading the Catholics of Paterson, New Jersey. A wonderful moment in the Diocese of Brooklyn when 4 men answer God's call to become ordained priests. Plus, a lot of pushback tonight from top police brass and City Hall as deadly gun violence surges in the Big Apple. The news starts right now.
It's exciting. I mean, you know, we exist to celebrate our faith with people and to share our faith with people.
And Catholics throughout Brooklyn and Queens are sharing that excitement. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. For the first time since the deadly COVID pandemic crippled New York City in March, Sunday Mass and Holy Communion have returned to churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn, releasing a wellspring of joy. Currents News' Emily Drooby has the story from Woodside, Queens.
The homecoming many have been dreaming of. As Sunday Mass resumed in the Diocese of Brooklyn, St. Sebastian Church in Woodside, Queens was a happy place.
To feel the vibration of the people, to feel the joy of the music, to see the priests in persona Christi is amazing.
For the first time in months, parishioners were able to receive the body of Christ and pray together as a church community, a beacon of hope amid so much loss.
We know that a lot of our faithful have lost loved ones, whether here, back home in their countries, so it's been tough. It's been tough.
Father Henry TORRES, their parochial vicar, estimates about 50 parishioners died from the virus. Many others were sick and even more were scared. Nicky TORRES managed to stay healthy despite working at a hospital. Now he's thanking God.
All the essential workers, all the healthcare workers, all the first responders, the Holy Spirit was just in us, with us.
With the virus still looming, special measures were in place inside the church. There were many visible differences at this Sunday Mass, from tape on the pews to collection baskets that didn't move, all designed to keep parishioners safe.
The ushers are not going pew to pew to take up collections, so at the doors of the church we do have a basket for the first collection, the second collection.
Safety instructions were read aloud, hand sanitizer was plentiful, and only the priest was on the altar. St. Sebastian had another addition unique to their parish, a new pastor, Father Patrick West, who joined the church family on Tuesday.
It's exciting. I mean, you know, we exist to celebrate our faith with people and to share our faith with people.
And the Catholics at St. Sebastian are able to do that in person once again. This celebration of the Sunday liturgy resumed with the Vigil Mass on Saturday, July 4th. Even though the weekly Mass obligation remains suspended, St. Sebastian celebrated the Eucharist 8 times over the weekend. But every parish is different, so it's important parishioners check with their church. In Woodside, Queens, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
For parishioners not yet ready to go back to church, live masses are being televised right here on Net TV. The liturgies are on the air Sunday and throughout the week. The full schedule is listed at netny.tv. Bishop Kevin Sweeney is beginning the first full week in his new ministry after being installed as the 8th Bishop of Paterson, New Jersey last week. Pope Francis selected the Brooklyn native for the post. Newark Cardinal Joseph Tobin and Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio helped lead the celebration. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story.
Brooklyn's loss is Paterson's gain as Bishop Kevin Sweeney settles into his new role as the leader of the New Jersey Diocese. Bishop Sweeney was installed at St. John the Baptist Cathedral in downtown Paterson in front of his family and a handful of priests. Those who know Bishop Sweeney best say he's one with his people.
His first priority is the people that he's entrusted with, and that is more important to him than any title.
So it's only fitting that he chose Pope John Paul II and Mother Teresa as the patron saints of his ministry.
They're both just such great inspirations of all that we're about and who we are as Catholics. So, and they're in our times. So there's more of them out there, I'm sure. We just got to raise them up.
Bishop Sweeney has spent the last decade as pastor at St. Michael's Parish in Sunset Park, an immigrant-rich community where his Spanish-speaking skills were a necessity.
His love of his people, bilingual, caring for the Hispanics in St. Michael's in Sunset Park for the last 10 years. He's just an incredible guy, and just a great priest and a great role model.
Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio said Bishop Sweeney is going to take his understanding of multiculturalism and put it to good use in his new home.
Yeah, he certainly understands multiculturalism. That's Brooklyn, and he can bring it here. Paterson is not that much different.
After his installation, Bishop Sweeney was given a warm welcome by the people he now serves. He will be leading more than 100 parishes in the Paterson Diocese. Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The flock that Bishop Sweeney served in the Brooklyn Diocese gave him a grand goodbye ahead of his installation. Fire trucks, police cars, and dozens of parishioners from St. Michael's Parish in Sunset Park lined up to send off the man they called a father and a friend. In a Facebook message, they said they are eternally grateful for his work and they will pray and support him always. Stay with us. Bishop Sweeney will be joining us in a few moments, looking toward the future of his new mission, serving as a successor to the apostles. That's still ahead in this newscast. And another story you won't want to miss, the ordination of 4 men to the priesthood. They are now ready to serve God's people in the Diocese of Brooklyn. A report from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph is moments away. The Big Apple today entered the 3rd phase of easing restrictions brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. After nearly 4 months, New Yorkers can get some non-essential services again, and that's expected to bring some jobs back. Nail and other personal care salons are open. Some low-risk youth sports and outdoor recreation have resumed, but no indoor dining in city restaurants is permitted yet. Although people flocked to beaches over the holiday weekend in spite of the pandemic, July is off to a miserable start in the U.S. Over the month's first 5 days, the 3 largest daily totals of coronavirus were reported. In all, more than 250,000 new infections were confirmed nationwide. In New York City, another deadly surge is causing concern tonight. This time, gun violence is the cause. Some streets of the Big Apple are being turned into shooting galleries. Currents News' Emily Drooby has the story of how top police brass and City Hall are responding.
It's a very serious situation.
Today, Mayor Bill de Blasio spoke out about the growing gun violence gripping the city, pointing a finger at the pandemic and the shutdowns it caused.
We have a real problem here, and I think profoundly the fact that our court system is not functioning and needs to function again underlies all of this.
10 people shot and killed and over 60 others shot this weekend. The NYPD says the gun violence is getting worse. There were 205 shootings this June, more than double the number from a year ago. The NYPD's chief of department, Terrence Monahan, is blaming several factors for the surge.
Bail reform, COVID releases from prison, court shut down. You know, I've said this before, the animosity towards police out there is tremendous.
New York's Cardinal Timothy Dolan is calling for an end to that animosity and the demonizing of cops. Writing in an op-ed, the men and women of the department realize they are far from perfect. But we know that while bad apples there indeed may be, they are very rare. Paul DiGiacomo, the president of the Detectives Endowment Association, is worried about the effect new police reforms are having, arguing it's now harder for cops to subdue suspects.
And it emboldened the criminal element and it lessened the authority of the police department. The police don't have the backing, full backing of our elected officials to support them. This is the end result.
Brooklyn Monsignor Robert Romano, the assistant chief chaplain of the NYPD, also calling out elected officials.
If it continues this way, those same politicians are going to be the ones that are going to be begging the NYPD to do something.
The mayor is turning to the cops and the community to get the violence under control.
It will take the efforts of clergy and block associations and elected officials and civic groups and parents and the Cure Violence movement. We're going to need all hands on deck.
In Windsor Terrace, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. We'll be joined by the new Bishop of Paterson, New Jersey. Bishop Kevin Sweeney tells us how his work here in Brooklyn prepared him for his new role. Plus, from goodbye to hello, parishioners in Brooklyn welcomed 4 new priests into the diocese. We'll take you to the ordination. And the controversy continues. More statues of Christopher Columbus being torn down also targeted a statue of a saint. We'll show you. Stay with us. More now on the joyful installation of Brooklyn native Kevin Sweeney as the 8th Bishop of Paterson, New Jersey. He joins us now. And Bishop, first, congratulations. It obviously wasn't the usual celebration because of COVID-19, limited people allowed inside, people wearing masks. How do you feel about taking this role during this time?
It was a joyful moment for sure. We're all living under the same circumstances, so as the church, even as the human family here locally in the country and throughout the world. So we got to be willing to adjust to whatever the Lord puts in front of us. And it's been an experience of the church working together with local authorities as we try to have the same goal of keeping people safe. And yet also we want to have people, allow people safely to have the opportunity to worship. So we figure things out, and a lot to be grateful for.
Nice. And you went to great lengths to make sure the Hispanic communities in your diocese felt welcomed, even speaking in Spanish for half of your homily. Why was that important to do?
Learning about the church here in Paterson. There's many Spanish-speaking members of the faithful here in the diocese. So having learned in Brooklyn to speak a little bit in Spanish, and especially at St. Michael's in the 10 years I was there as pastor, the faith of those who come to us from other countries that are Spanish-speaking in the Americas, they bring their faith with them, and their faith has been part of my life. It's been an impact on my life as a priest, and I'm sure it will be as a bishop. So to have that opportunity to say some words in a language that people are familiar with, I felt was important.
You mentioned the time you spent here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. How did that experience prepare you for the role you're in today?
We say in the Creed on Sundays that we believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. So the church is that mystical body of Christ throughout the world, but we experience it in local communities, whether it be in our families or in our parish or in the diocese. And the church that I've known in my life is the church in Brooklyn, starting with my family and home parish, and my enthusiasm for our faith and wanting to share the love that Jesus calls us to share day by day. I owe so much to the church in Brooklyn. So I trust that my 23 years as a priest there in Brooklyn will hopefully prepare me well to serve here in Paterson.
All right, and what do you hope to accomplish as Bishop of Paterson?
What I guess what I hope to accomplish would be to do what God is asking me to do day by day. I think that's what we're all called to do as disciples from our baptism, and how that's going to work itself out specifically, starting with those who are most in need and working together as the church to accomplish what God is asking of us as his family and his disciples here in the Diocese of Paterson.
Okay, and really quickly, you chose as your Episcopal motto, God is love. Why pick that message for your ministry?
I think for 2 reasons. It sums up what we believe and who God is and who we're called to be in those 3 little words that St. John gives to us. And again, having the Spanish language and Spanish-speaking parishioners have such an impact on my life, using that short version of that summary in those 3 little words allowed me to have in my Episcopal motto in both in English and in Spanish, God is love, Dios es amor. So I felt that was the best way to go.
All right, Paterson's new Bishop, Kevin Sweeney, congratulations again. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Have a great day. God bless.
While Brooklyn says goodbye to Bishop Sweeney, 4 other men are stepping up to serve, receiving the sacrament of holy orders and becoming priests. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has the story of the ordinations from St. Joseph's Cathedral in Prospect Heights.
Hallelujah rang out in the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph as 4 men took their final steps toward priesthood and a new life. Though their faces were covered with masks, the now priests have shown their true colors.
Present.
Father Peter Okajima says he's ready for the challenge of becoming a priest during a pandemic and time of racial unrest.
Our call to the priesthood is so much more important now because there's even more hurt and division in the world.
Nestor, do you promise obedience and respect to me and my successors?
Father Nestor Martinez, the most junior of the group, leaves a big family back in Colombia, but has welcomed parishioners at Divine Mercy in Williamsburg into a new family of his own and is ready to share his priesthood with them.
This is the gift that we are going to share with our communities, and this is the good news that also we are going to preach to these people.
In addition to receiving the gift of his priesthood, Father Dragan Pušić got another gift at his ordination, a message to his family from Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio in Croatian. Father Dragan says as times change, God's love remains eternal.
The world is changing, definitely globalized, so I think Church also has to show this sense of unity and this ecumenical sense to become one.
Father Gabriel Agudelo Perdomo has waited 40 years to be ordained. He says it's the encouragement he's received along the way that allowed him to go the distance.
There are many people who encourage me to reach this goal. This is very important to me. It's my vocation, and I want to thank all the people who stayed with me through this process.
That you may sanctify the Christian people and
with these 4 priests, Bishop DiMarzio has ordained 100 priests in his time as the leader of the Brooklyn Diocese. Having recently celebrated his 50th anniversary as a priest, he had some solid advice to give.
recognizing that we have a unique vocation to proclaim the truth to the world, so we don't shy away from telling the truth.
Their ordination is a new beginning for the priests. It's a call they've waited to answer their whole lives. In Prospect Heights, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The Little Sisters of the Poor are waiting tonight to hear from the U.S. Supreme Court. The justices are deciding an appeal brought by the nuns over the Affordable Care Act's contraception mandate. The sisters don't want to be forced to cover birth control insurance and are asking the court to intervene. Right now, the court is wrapping up its term after a delay because of the COVID outbreak. Protests continue across the country 6 weeks after George Floyd's death, and statues of historical figures continue to be vandalized. Targeted over the weekend, monuments of St. Junipero Serra and Christopher Columbus. Protesters cheered after tearing down a statue of Christopher Columbus in Baltimore, Maryland on Saturday night. The monument was then thrown into the harbor. In Waterbury, Connecticut, on Sunday morning, protesters discovered a statue of the Italian explorer beheaded. Some said they weren't upset about it, calling it a symbol of oppression, but others were startled by the sight.
I'm of the firm belief that we need to learn from our past and not destroy it.
Rise up, my people, rise up!
Set on fire and spray painted in Sacramento, California, a statue of Junipero Serra was targeted and torn down. St. Junipero Serra was an 18th century priest who led missionary efforts in California. Some see him as a controversial figure over his treatment of Native Americans.
It's a disgrace for us that we have to drive past those statues every day and see people who committed genocide and torture on our people being glorified.
But others see this removal as an assault on their heritage, saying Serra is an important part of the Catholic religion after Pope Francis canonized him as a saint in 2015. Sacramento Bishop Jaime Soto denounced the toppling of the statue, saying in a statement, "This act of vandalism does little to build the future," and went on to say, "There is no question that California's indigenous people endured great suffering during the colonial period. Yet it is also true that while Father Serra worked under this colonial system, he denounced its evils and worked to protect the dignity of Native peoples." As for the Columbus statues, Andre DiMino is a spokesperson for the Italian-American One Voice Coalition and is strong in supporting the monuments to the explorer and how Italian-Americans find pride in him, saying to me recently on Currents News.
Well, for me personally, I actually have a personal story because I'm a first-generation Italian-American. My parents both came here from Italy. My grandfather, when he came over, he was a longshoreman, and he was spit upon and paid less on the docks of New York when he worked there. And he saw Columbus Day as the one day of pride for him. And therefore, I think that's the kind of legacy that we should continue for Italian Americans.
Regarding St. Junipero, last month protesters pulled down Serra statues in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Still to come on Currents News, she's lived through several wars, even the Great Depression, but says 2020 has already been the craziest year she's experienced. Also ahead, some big honors for the tablet and Nuestra Voz. We'll tell you why the papers were recognized. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Stefina Rugel had seen it all. At least that's what she thought until 2020 came along. Known to her friends as Stevie, the Illinois woman just celebrated her 103rd birthday, and she's calling 2020 the craziest year ever. But Stevie has a way to stay in good spirits.
Well, I just think of good things, not bad things. I like my friends. I like my boyfriends too.
Stevie didn't tell us any more about her boyfriends, but she did say she likes everybody. And finally tonight, congratulations to our colleagues at the Tablet newspaper at Nuestra Voz. They are being recognized for excellent reporting in Catholic news. The Catholic Press Association awarded the Tablet 40 awards. 25 went to Nuestra Voz. Among some of those grand prizes include second place for Best Weekly Diocesan Newspaper to the Tablet and first place in Best News Writing on both a local and national level for Nuestra Voz. And that is Currents News. We leave you with a montage of scenes from Bishop Kevin Sweeney's installation in Paterson. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.